Good day, everyone. So today I am going to continue the presentation of Miss Baktong about Carl Jung's archetypal mythological approach. I am Genesa P. Ancheta, your presenter. Now let us proceed to some examples of archetypes. Having established the significance of myth, we need to examine its relationship to archetypes and archetypal patterns. Although every people has its own distinctive mythology that may be reflected in legend, folklore, and ideology. Although, in other words, myths take their specific shapes from the cultural environments in which they grow. Myth is, in the general sense, universal. Now, examples of these archetypes and the symbolic meanings with which they tend to be widely associated follow, and it should be noted that these meanings may vary significantly from one context to another. Now, let us proceed to some examples of archetypes. First, we have the images. Under images, the first example here is the water. The water is the mystery of creation. It signifies the birth, death, and resurrection, purification and redemption, fertility and growth. Now, according to Jung, water is also the commonest symbol for the unconscious. Now, here we have types of water. First, we have the sea. The sea is the mother of all life, spiritual mystery and infinity, death and rebirth, timelessness and eternity in the unconscious. Then we have the rivers. Rivers signifies death and rebirth or the baptism, the flowing of time into eternity, transitional phases of the life cycle, and the incarnations of deities. Then number two example, we have the sun. The sun is, I know the sun is under the example of images. Now, the sun is the creative energy, the law in nature, consciousness, now thinking, enlightenment, wisdom, spiritual, vision. Father principle, which is the moon and earth, tend to be associated with female or mother principle and the passage of time and life. So we have here the types of sun. The first one is the rising sun. The rising sun signifies the creation or the enlightenment, and the setting sun means the death. Now let us proceed to number three, which is the colors. Now, there are a lot of colors, but let us just stick to Jung's archetypal approaches. Now, the first one, we have the red. The red symbolizes the blood, sacrifice, violent passion, and disorder. Then we have here the green. The green is the growth, sensation, hope, fertility, or in negative context may be associated with death and decay. Then we have here the blue. The blue usually highly positive, associated with truth, religious feeling, security, and spiritual purity, which is also the color of the Great Mother or Holy Mother. Then of course we have the black which is also the darkness. Now it simply means the chaos, mystery, the unknown, death, primal wisdom, the unconscious, the evil, and the melancholy. Then the last one we have the white, highly multivalent, signifying in its positive aspects the light, the purity, innocence, and timelessness. Now in its negative aspects, the death, the terror, the supernatural, and the blinding truth of an inscrutable cosmic mystery. Now let us proceed to circle. There are a lot of circle according to Jung's archetypal the examples of archetypes. Now the first one in circle we have the mandala. The mandala is the desire for spiritual unity and psychic integration. Note that in its classic Asian forms, the mandala juxtaposes the triangle. the square, and the circle with their numerical equivalents of 3, 4, and 7. Now let us have the egg. The egg is the mystery of life and the forces of generation. And then we have the yang yin or the yin yang. It is a Chinese symbol. Now you can see it here below, representing the union of the opposite forces of the yang. The masculine principle, the light, activity, and the conscious mind. And of course, the yin, which is the female principle, the darkness, passivity, and the unconscious. And then the last one under circle, we have the Ouroboros. It is the ancient symbol of the snake biting its own tail, signifying the eternal cycle of life, the primordial unconsciousness, the unity of opposing forces. It can also be compared to the yang yin or the yin yang. Then number 5, we have the serpent, we have the snake or the worms. Now it is the symbol of energy and pure force, which can be compared to the libido, the evil, corruption, the sensuality, destruction, mystery, wisdom, and the unconscious. Now let us proceed to the numbers. Now the numbers, there are also archetypes with the numbers. First, we have number 3, which means the light, the spiritual awareness and unity. No, it can be compared to the Holy Trinity for the Catholics and the male principle. Then we have number 4. Number 4 is associated with the circle, the life cycle, the 4 seasons, the female principle, the earth, nature, the 4 elements, the earth, air, fire, and water. Then we have number 5. It is signifying integration, the 4 limbs and the head that controls them, the 4 cardinal points plus the center. And of course, the 7, the most potent of all symbolic numbers, it is signifying the union of 3 and 4 and the completion of a cycle, which is the perfect order. Now let us proceed to the archetypal woman. The archetypal woman or the great mother, which is the mysteries of life, death, transformation, and the female principle associated with the moon. So we have here 3 types. The first one is the good mother. The good mother is the positive aspects of the earth mother, which is associated with the life principle, the birth, the warmth, the nourishment, the protection, fertility, growth, abundance. And for example, in Greek mythology, we have Demeter, no, and Ceres, the terrible mother, including the negative aspects of the earth mother, the witch, the sorceress, the siren, the whore, the lamia, the femme fatale associated with sensuality, sexual orgies, fear, danger, darkness, dismemberment, emasculatory death, the unconscious in its terrifying aspects. And the last one, in the archetypal woman, we have the soulmate. The soulmate is the Sophia figure. It is the Holy Mother, the princess or beautiful lady. It is also, it signifies the incarnation of inspiration and spiritual fulfillment. It can be compared to the Jungian anima. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Next, we have the demon lover. Now, the demon lover or the male counterpart of the terrible mother, it is the devil, the Satan, Dracula, no? For example, we have Blake's, the Sick Rose, and the Jungian's Animus. Next, we have the wise old man. The wise old man is the savior, the redeemer, and the guru. Personification of the spiritual principle representing knowledge, reflection, insight, wisdom, cleverness, and intuition on the one hand, and on the other, the moral qualities such as goodwill and readiness to help, which makes his spiritual character sufficiently plain. Apart from his cleverness, the wisdom and insight, the old man, which is also notable for his moral qualities. Now, what is more, he even tests the moral qualities of others and makes gifts dependent on these tests. Now, I can compare the wise old man na in the Harry Potter. We have Professor Dumbledore, no? He makes gifts, no, dependent on the test that he gave to his students. And the old man always appears when the hero is in a hopeless and desperate situation from which only profound reflection or a lucky idea. So, yes, as I've said, the wise old man is also the savior of our hero and can extricate him. But since for internal and external reasons, the hero cannot accomplish this himself, the knowledge needed to compensate the deficiency comes in the form of a personified thought. For example, in the shape of the sagacious and helpful old man. Okay, next, let us proceed to the trickster. Trickster is the joker, the jester, the clown, the fool, the fraud, the prankster, the picaro, poltergeist, confidence man, or the con man, medicine man, or the shaman, magician, or the slay of hand artist, and the spirit Mercurius, which is the shapeshifter, Semia, the ape of, yeah, cod, which, okay, no, sorry if I cannot read this properly. I cannot properly read this one. So the trickster appears to be the opposite of the wise old man because of his clone affinity with the shadow archetype, no? For shadow, however, we should mention that he has a positive side and may even serve a healing function through his transformative influence. Now, Young remarks that he is a forerunner of the Savior, and like him, God, man, and animal at once, he is both subhuman and superhuman, a bestial and divine being. So, we can compare the trickster to Loki, no? See, Loki is the trickster, also known as the trickster or the prankster. Next, we have the garden. The garden is the paradise, the innocence, unspoiled beauty, especially feminine or fertility. Then we have the tree. The tree, in its most general sense, the symbolism of the tree denotes life of the cosmos, its consistence, growth, proliferation, generative and regenerative processes. It stands for inexhaustible life and is therefore equivalent to a symbol of immortality. Then we have the desert. The desert is the spiritual aridity, the death, the nihilism, and the hopelessness. Then the last one, we have the mountain. The mountain is the aspiration and inspiration, the meditation and spiritual elevation. The mountain stands for the goal of the pilgrimage in accent. Hence it often has the psychological meaning of the self. Now let us proceed to the archetypal motifs or the patterns. First, we have the creation. The creation, perhaps the most fundamental of all archetypal motifs. Virtually every mythology is built on some account of how the cosmos, nature, and humankind were brought into existence by some supernatural being or beings. We have tackled this in our previous subjects or in our previous courses, no, the creation. We even had our flexible learning activity showcasing the creation of different religions. Then we have the second one, the immortality, another fundamental archetype, generally taking one of two basic narrative forms. The first one, we have escape from time or the return to paradise. It is the state of perfect, timeless bliss. enjoyed by man and woman before their tragic fall into corruption and mortality. And then the second one, we have the mystical submersion into cyclical time, the theme of endless death and regeneration. Human beings achieve a kind of immortality by submitting to the vast, mysterious rhythm of nature's eternal cycle, particularly the cycle of the seasons. Then the hero archetypes. The hero archetypes are the archetypes of transformation and redemption. Now we have also tackled this one, but let's just review. First, we have the quest. The quest is the hero or the savior or the deliverer undertakes some long journey during which he or she must perform impossible tasks, battle with monsters, solve unanswerable riddles, and overcome insurmountable obstacles in order to save the kingdom. Then we have the initiation. The initiation is when the hero undergoes a series of excruciating ordeals in passing from ignorance and immaturity to social and spiritual adulthood, that is, in achieving maturity and becoming a full-fledged member of his or her social gap. The initiation most commonly consists of three distinct phases. First is separation, the second is the transformation, and the third is the return. Like the quest, this is a variation of the death and rebirth archetype. Then the last one, we have the sacrificial scapegoat. The hero, with whom the welfare of the tribe or nation is identified, must die to atone for the people's sins and restore the land to fruitfulness. Now let us have an archetypal analysis of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So since Christmas is in the air, why not analyze the why not have the archetypal analysis of the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Okay, in the story of Rudolph, a young deer born to one of Santa's main reindeer meets the requirements of an archetypal hero by being in one respect different from everyone else. Now his nose glows. That is why he is called red-nosed reindeer. His unusual power is also exhibited in the running broad jump when he jumps farther than any other reindeer. But despite efforts to hide his nose with clay, the other reindeer soon discover that Rudolph is different and he is ostracized. As a result, they never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer games anymore. So our hero runs away, signifying the retreat into oneself that must be initiated in order to come to terms with one's uniqueness. The retreat is often symbolized in mythology as a retreat into the wilderness, a wilderness in which one may confront the devil himself. Rudolph soon teams up with a disgruntled elf who does not want to work for Santa, but wants to be a dentist. Like Rudolph, he has run away because he is different and unacceptable. In these two characters, we see the two sides of man's nature. One of them, Rudolph, is acquiescent, mild, and without initiative. The elf is dynamic and rebellious. Now, another important characteristic of the hero myth lies in the balancing of the hero's early weakness and immaturity by the appearance of strong tutelary figures of guardians who enable him to perform tasks that he cannot accomplish unaided. In Rudolph's story, this guardian is Yukon Cornelius, the prospector who time and again uses his pick to rescue our hero from danger. Guardian figures such as this are in fact symbolic representatives of the whole psyche, the larger and the more comprehensive identity that supplies the strength that the personal ego lacks. Thus, we follow our hero with his elf friend and his guardian angel, as it were, Yukon Cornelius on his retreat away from a society that scorned him into himself, where there lurks an even greater danger, evil itself, personified in the person of the abominable snowman. In a narrow escape from a disastrous confrontation with the snowman, Cornelius once again saves Rudolph and his friend, and they find themselves on the island of misfit toys. In doing so, they cross the great water, symbolic of a safe passage across the depths of the unconscious. The island is populated by misfits like themselves, toys that for one reason or other were different and therefore scorned by society in which being unique is a sin. Naturally being misfits themselves, Rudolph and the elf want to stay on the island and they consult with its ruler, a lion king. This is another important archetype, symbolic of our higher consciousness, whose authority must go unchallenged. The lion in all his wisdom denies them residence, for the solution to their problem is not to run away from the world, but to accept themselves. Unlike toys, living things cannot run away, but most confront the realities of life. Thus, Rudolph's sojourn and expulsion from the island of lost toys symbolizes the manner in which the emerging ego overcomes the inertia of the unconscious mind and liberates the mature man from a regressive longing to return to the blissful state of infancy. Having been liberated, then the final battle with the snowman, the forces of evil within him must inevitably take place. The battle between the hero and the monster shows clearly the archetypal theme of the ego's triumph over regressive trends. For most people, the dark or negative side of the personality remains unconscious. The hero, on the other hand, must realize that his shadow exists and that he can draw strength from it. Thus, the abominable snowman represents the archetype of the shadow, or dark side of one's personality with which one must confront to achieve maturity. This claim is further strengthened by the fact that the ultimate confrontation between Rudolph and the snowman takes place in a cave, a symbol of the unconscious. First, he must come to terms with its destructive powers if he is to become sufficiently strong to master and assimilate this darker side, according to Jung. And in fact, it is significant that the snowman is not killed by Rudolph, but merely tamed and assimilated into North Pole society to place stars on top of Christmas trees for the rest of these days. Thus, we see that Rudolph's or the ego's rise to a consciousness takes place as he is welcomed with open arms back into his long lost home. Among his family and friends, he retreated, embarked on his journey, and with the help of Cornelius, confronted the darker side of his personality and came to terms with himself. In the same way that the childish ego frees itself from the oppression of parental or societal expectations and becomes individual. So, Rudolph now took what was once a terrible defect and turned it into a wonderful gift. And Rudolph, with his nose so bright, led Santa's sleigh that night. And that would be all for my report. Thank you so much, guys, for watching and for listening. I hope you have learned something from this presentation. Thank you and God bless.